The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. Here's your host, David.
So what? Okay.
Robert Webb.
All right, what's happening? Welcome to the show, Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions. Our voice is 855-525-5683 is the number. We're expecting Tracy Ann Nelson here in just a few minutes. I'm hoping for some, maybe some plantain and some jerk chicken, something like that. Roselle Aaron is still hanging around. I don't know. I'm about to throw him some treats to get rid of him. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, of course. Don't forget that you can download the show on your local podcast platform. Your podcast platform. Wherever you go, just download the podcast, and you'll be able to carry the show wherever you are. Also, download the Join That Radio app so you can catch the show live every day, Monday through Friday, and, of course, the weekly sports magazine on Saturday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m. So you can catch it live. And, of course, it helps us with our statistics as well. So when you're listening via that app. And also send it to a friend of yours, okay? How about that? It doesn't matter where they live. The issues that we talk about here in Little Rock are the same damn things that's going on everywhere else, folks. If you're black, you're dealing with it, okay? So we need to come together and deal with it together. Together we are strong. Individually, we suck. Okay. Robert Webb's in the house.
What's up, brother? What's up?
And, of course, we'll talk in a little bit. But before we do anything, we got to do well, let me speak to Robert Webb. Hello, Robert.
What's up, brother?
How was your weekend?
It's Tuesday, man.
Oh, that's right. I'm just checking.
Yeah,
I'm just checking to see if you're still alive.
I'm still here.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about. You went and did a little homework today. Of course, there was some more data that came out about violence in schools in Little Rock that I have tons and tons of questions about. And then, of course, Tracy Ann Nelson will be here, which she just walked into the studio. She makes it look a lot better when she comes in the door, so I'll start looking at her as opposed to looking at your mug, Robert. Let's see. So since we got a crowded studio, why don't we just go ahead and y'all gonna like this, by the way. This black fact. Hey, Tracy.
T-A-N. You get my email?
100%.
All right. I love this black fact right here because, I know some of y'all be turning in y'all guns and stuff like that. I've already told you that I don't participate in gun buyback programs. I do participate in gun buy programs, okay? So those of you who are throwing up your hands and so holier than thou, I'm going to help you with something, okay? Have you ever heard of the deacons? No, not them old men that sit on the front row and conduct devotion. I love the Lord. No,
You heard my cry.
Not them folks.
Not them.
Not
Roselle Park. Not Roselle homies, right?
No, not none of Roselle folks. Okay.
Jesus.
The deacons.
That's so mean.
They were black armed Christians who protected Martin Luther King Jr. and civil rights supporters before the Black Panthers. Are you kidding me? Wait a minute.
Awesome.
You said that there were black Christians walking around with weapons protecting Dr. King? Oh, Lord. No thoughts and prayers? No, we gonna pray about it? Did you mean to tell? Come on, no. I gotta read this, okay? Given that African Americans were an easy target in the 1950s and 60s, the KKK, the white supremacist group, had a free rein terrorizing and even murdering civil rights supporters. The incessant attacks were so frequent that many civil rights workers armed themselves for self-protection. Even the name Martin Luther King Jr. had so many guns during the 1950s that one visitor called it an arsenal. Not Dr. King, man. Dr. King didn't have no arsenal, did he? No, man.
So you knew this? Did you know this?
And when it became pretty clear, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be laughing, but it just goes to show you, some of you folks don't know what the hell y'all been doing. Anyway, I digress. And when it became pretty clear that some cooperation existed between the KKK and local law enforcement agencies, denying civil rights workers in some areas police protection, a group emerged to protect black lives. On July 10th, 1964, a group of African-American men in Jonesboro, Louisiana, led by Ernest Chilly Willie Thomas and Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick, now them some names right there, founded the group known as the Deacons of Defense and Justice. Their aim was to protect members of the Congress of Racial Equality against KKK violence. Most of the deacons were veterans of World War II and the Korean War. The Jonesboro chapter organized its first affiliate chapter in nearby Bogalusa, Louisiana, led by Charles Sims, A.Z. Young, and Robert Hicks. Eventually, they organized a third chapter in Louisiana. The Deacons' tense confrontation with the Klan in Bogalusa was critical in forcing federal government to intervene on behalf of the local African-American community. The national attention they garnered also persuaded state and national officials to initiate efforts to neutralize the Klan in that area of the Deep South. They adopted the name Deacons of Defense and Justice because most of them were practicing Christians. What? You mean they didn't lay down their weapons for plowshares? But I'm sorry, I digress. And they aimed to serve the communities in a Christian manner. The corporate chapter explained that the group's purpose was the defense of civil rights, property rights, and personal rights, and to defend said rights by any and all honorable legal means to end that justice may be attained. The deacons conducted nighttime auto patrols of black neighborhoods, communicating via citizens' bands, radios, and walkie-talkie. CORE worked closely with the deacons, and soon the energy and pride provided by the deacons had helped make Jonesboro one of CORE's best organized towns. I'm sorry, I have to repeat things sometimes. I get stuck on them. The Deacons emerged as one of the first visible self-defense forces and were effective in providing protection for local African Americans who sought to register to vote for white and black civil rights workers in the areas. They, for example, provided security for the 1966 March Against Fear from Memphis to Jackson, Mississippi. Moreover, their presence in southeastern Louisiana meant that the Klan no longer were able to intimidate or terrorize local African Americans without challenge. The Bogalusa Deacons guarded the homes of civil rights leaders and protected rallies. One gun battle led to the death of a Klansman, with another Klansman being treated 2 states away at an Alabama hospital to conceal police complicity with the Klan. And when students at Jackson High School in Jonesboro were boycotting classes and picketing, the school demanded an end to racist practice as black students were barred from taking classes in auto mechanics, and the local police, in collaboration with the Klan, cordoned off the school, surrounding the defenseless students, ready to spray the protesters with fire hoses. The armed deacons came to the rescue. When owing when owing to tensions, Bogalusa mayor, when owing to tensions, Bogalusa's mayor announced the repeal of the town's segregation laws. I guess that should be bowing. This is a misprint. When bowing to tensions, Bogalusa's mayor announced the repeal of the town's segregation laws, reluctantly acceding to the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964 on May 23rd, leading to the hiring of his first black deputy sheriff. The Klan responded with an aggressive counteroffensive, leading to the murder of the new deputy only a few days after his appointment. The deputy's funeral was set June 9th, and Corps' James Farmer, the national chairman of 1942 to 44, was scheduled to speak at the service. The police warned Farmer that the Klan had plotted to assassinate him when he was in Louisiana. So 4 deacons of defense met him at the New Orleans airport, armed with their handguns. They drove him 65 miles to Bogalusa. The grateful Farmer later told the press, "Corps is nonviolent, but we have no right to tell Negroes in Bogalusa or anywhere else that they do not have the right to defend their homes. It's a constitutional right." About 50 deacons attended the deputy's funeral, successfully deterring any would-be attackers, and by the end of June, deacons' chapters had spread in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. On a hot July night, a cavalcade of 25 Klan automobiles drove through a black neighborhood of Bogalusa, shouting vile comments at women and spewing racial insults. Some Klansmen then randomly fired at some of the houses. To the Klansmen's shock, the response was a fusillade of return fire. Well, what you know? The Klan members sped away in fear. They finally found out that we were really men, one of the deacons' leader reminded, and that we would do what we said, and we meant what we said. The deacons had support from check this out. The deacons had support from the National Rifle Association, which sold them ammunition in bulk.
They gonna make their money.
Man, so I just learned something. Oh, I just love me some black facts. I just love them. Anyway, initially the deacons' main arms were shotguns. Some were handguns. Over time, their efforts was to standardize the deacons with 30 cal and M1 carbines and 38 special revolvers. In spring of 1966, the elderly black man died of a heart attack during the Martin Luther King chose to preach at his funeral in the Mississippi Delta, and asked Charles Sims and the deacons to accompany him as an escort. Likewise, King at times used the Chicago chapter of the deacons for security. When Bogalusa Junior High integrated in the fall of '66, white students beat up black students relentlessly until black students began fighting back. When they did, the Klan showed up at the school armed, but the deacons also showed up with their arms. See, this is what I'm talking about, baby. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited. With the police in between, the Klan drew their guns first, and the deacons brought out their own firearms. Unhappily, the Klansmen withdrew. The attack of black students ended. By the late 1960s, the deacons had been so successful that they were no longer necessary. The gains of the civil rights movement and the long overdue criminal prosecutions of violent Klansmen had greatly reduced the dangers faced by civil rights activists. The deacons initiated a regional organization campaign, founding a total of 21 formal chapters and 46 affiliates in other states. The spirit of armed defense, which the deacons had cultivated, meant that white racists could no longer attack blacks with impunity. The strategy and the methods of the deacons employed attracted the attention of the FBI, which authorized an investigation into the group's activities. The investigation stalled, however, when more influential black power organizations such as US and the Black Panther Party emerged after the 1965 Watts riot. By 1968, the deacons' activities were declining following the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the entry of blacks into politics in the South and the rise of the Black Power movement. Blacks worked to gain control of more political and economic activities in their community. In 2003, the activities of the deacons was the subject of the Deacons of Defense documentary. And that right there, my brothers and my sisters, was one hell of a black fact.
That it was, brother.
Well,
We are armed.
well. You know, you don't want to pick on a little kid when you realize he's got a howitzer. I just made that up. Hey, Tracy Ann.
Hey, how are you?
Did you like that black fact?
Very much. I learned so
See,
much.
what that means is this,
I really learned.
is that if they know you're going to fight back,
They ain't playing with you.
they ain't going to come your way.
Yeah,
You
we don't
see what I'm
fight
saying?
back, though, man.
We don't fight back. See, all this stuff has been buried in history. That, you know, here's Dr. King using the deacons as protection. But
Right.
what do we hear about Dr. King? He was a peaceful man.
Yeah.
He wasn't no damn fool. You didn't hear him saying, well, let's pray about it. God gonna protect me. I had a dream that bullet was gonna bounce off my head. No.
Sick. Sick, brother.
That was really interesting.
That was a great, great black fact. I actually had planned to use that last week, but I didn't for whatever
I'm glad
reason.
you did, man.
And I'm glad we saved it because I'm going
That was a good
to, you know, I knew about, and you know, here's how, so there was a football team, the old, was it the Oakland Raiders? I mean, the Los Angeles Rams, whose nickname was the Deacons of Defense.
Right.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I know it was one of
With
them.
Deacon Jones.
With
and all
Deacon
those
Jones
guys.
and all those.
Yeah.
I wonder if people understand that historical significance.
I don't think so, man. I bet they don't
Man,
get it.
that's deep right there, man. I love that. Anyway, got a lot of stuff to talk about. Tracy Ann Nelson is in here. Just quickly, the top 3 schools in Little Rock, as far as violence is concerned, is J.A. Fair, Little Rock Hall, and Little Rock Central.
That's all of them.
Okay? So,
With the exception of Parkview, that's all of them.
yeah. So,
You only got 4
Can't
houses.
say all with the exception of.
Well, okay.
That makes
You only got
sense.
4. You only got 4, and there's 3 of them.
4 high schools.
Only got 4 high schools, and there's 3 of them. So that's all of them except 1.
So they're saying they worked roughly 120 reports classified as violent crimes. Now here's
What's
where
a violent crime?
I'm getting to that because that's where
We got to bring
like,
Mike back.
that's where I kind of like, huh? Let's see. They classified them as violent crimes so far this year. These happened at various schools in the district, ranging from assault and battery to terroristic threatening to disorderly conduct.
At school?
What's disorderly conduct?
What's terroristic threatening? I'm gonna whoop your ass.
That's terroristic threatening. That's it. That's
Okay.
It. I'm going to kick your ass.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna whoop your ass out the
I'm going to
class.
slap taste at your mouth.
You know,
That's it.
let's see. Assault. That means you could have pinched the girl. She could have pinched
You
you.
could have pushed somebody in the hall. You could have a
Exactly.
match. Yeah.
So
But this
What are
is-
you trying to do? Diminish what is categorized?
No, I'm not trying to diminish it, but it's just we don't. It's still puzzling to us how kids are being charged with crimes at school. I mean, we had fights in school, and if we had police in our school, we would have been arrested for assault.
lots of times.
Kids have fights. We have fights in school. Why are kids now being arrested for having a fight or a pushing match?
Or saying you're gonna do
Oh
something.
yeah, we always said I'm gonna kick your ass after school.
It is now, Roselle.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying. And I do think there's a problem with not allowing children to learn, right? Because you learn a lot more in mistake than you do in victory. So,
Ooh, that's deep, Tracy.
no, it's not. So I always say that at least to my friends and family. We have to give children room to make mistakes so that they can learn from it and we can give them the correction they need without it being a consequence that is detrimental to them and to their families.
Yeah, and this is one of those consequences that's detrimental because what happens is a guy gets a charge in high school,
Yeah.
right? And so when he graduates or he drops out or whatever the case may be, he's hanging out one day on the corner, he gets arrested by the police, and guess what? He's already got a record. from high school.
So let me tell you a story. So I know this guy. He was in the 10th grade at Central. Okay. He got in a fight. He was actually a pretty good kid. Okay. He got in a fight with 2 other guys. They fought up and down the stairs. Okay. He ended up going to the principal's office, and fortunately he knew the vice principal. She sat him down in his office. The 2 other guys ended up getting suspended. To make a long story short, that guy went on to graduate, did some pretty darn good things at Central, has turned out to be a pretty good gentleman. So had he been arrested during that fight, criminalized, he may not have ever gotten to where he was today.
Right.
That guy was me.
David Cole, but he fought 2 dudes.
Man,
I
I whooped ass up and down the stairs. But they didn't come back no more. But no, the point is, I ended up being a team captain. I didn't get kicked. Look, I didn't get kicked off the team. You see what I'm saying? Coach made me run bleachers.
Radio, we can shut Dave down for bragging about his.
I'm just saying.
Personal accomplishment.
No. What I'm just saying is that had this policy been in effect during that time period, I ended up as a senior being a team captain, all of that stuff.
Right.
I would not have
been different.
It would have been different.
Well,
you understand what I'm saying?
The thing is here though, is that when you start.
By the way, that other guy, one of the guys who fought me, he's a millionaire now.
So you should have lost the fight.
Yeah, I should have. Shit. I'm stupid. Sorry.
So what gives me concern is when you start having conversations like this, while they say, when Mike was here, he was saying, fights are down and incidents of arrest are down. But when you're given these kind of numbers, we don't have the conversation about how does this impact that kid
in the future.
Especially when you start talking about going to look for jobs. If you got an assault conviction on your record, a lot of people won't hire you. I mean, it's hard to get a job, and you got to feel like you got to check that box. Now, I know people like to say that that's a misdemeanor, that some assaults are misdemeanors, but regardless, who gives a high school kid a misdemeanor charge in high school? I mean, again, let's go back to why the police were there. Originally, police were put in these schools because white boys were shooting up schools.
Yep.
But now, black boys get punished for it. Again, black boys are being punished for things that they implement to prevent white boys from shooting up schools, but now we're being penalized for it.
Yeah,
and I think that's unfair.
That's what I was going to mention.
Good point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. And then Rob finally got around to it after listening to all Dave's nonsense.
Yeah, because you didn't have a life in high school. Where'd you go to school? In a barn?
Matter of fact, I graduated from Hall, one of the schools that's on that list.
No wonder it's on the list.
But at any rate, I think Rob,
I always had thugs in Hall.
I think Robert
Anyway.
said it well.
There's some good-looking women over there.
Is that one of the reasons, or probably one of the reasons that he ain't got good sense. One of the reasons
That's wrong.
that so many black boys are getting arrested, black children are getting arrested because police are in school. I mean, that's just point blank bottom line. Police officers have no business in schools, and that's just. I mean, they have
I agree.
because everything that they're arresting, well, most of what they're arresting students for can be handled through the disciplinary policy in the student handbook, and they're completely circumventing that. They're going around that and going straight to the police for black children, and that's why so many of our children are in the criminal justice system. But also, a lot of times we're hearing this lie about that, if you get arrested as a juvenile, it does not impact you in the future. And it could not be further from the truth. I've talked to people on several occasions that have said, well, I got arrested when I was juvenile, but can't nobody see that. It's not true.
Not true.
Because when you apply for certain types of jobs, especially in law enforcement, they've got access to those records. And all it simply says when they run your name is it says the crime and the disposition of the case, and then it says juvenile record. And it says juvenile record, so they don't release it to people that should not have it.
Right.
And so they still have, and it's the same thing for expungements and records that are sealed, is that they are not in the system.
They're still an
They're
indicator.
always in the system.
Yeah.
Right.
And police pull you over on the street, just like you talked about a moment ago. Police pull you over, you're driving, traffic stop, they run your driver's license. They have access to that information. And as soon as they see that, first of all, you're a black man, and secondly, that you have a violent criminal history, they're going to treat you like your history.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem, and sometimes they mishandle the situation, and it creates a crime where there would not otherwise have been a crime.
And that assault might not have been a violent history. It just based on how they listed it in the system.
Sometimes now you have to keep in mind that the lowest level of assault, there can be verbal assault. Assault can be spitting on somebody, and how. I mean, how many of us have gotten pissed off at a cop and wanted to spit on him? I mean, I'm guilty. Look, I ain't spit on him, but I've wanted to. That's assault.
That's all of us, right?
And so when we see the word assault in a criminal history, without looking at the details of the incident, it automatically makes us feel like this person is a violent criminal because of the title of the conviction or the charge.
Right.
And we don't have access to the details because when you run a police officer, for example, it does not show them, well, this kid got arrested in high school for spitting on a cop.
Yeah,
it just says assault and the conviction and that they're a juvenile.
I think the conversation we have to have with the school district is how did police officers evolve from what they were originally there for to what they're doing now?
I mean, catch slaves.
Yeah. So how did they? How did they leave? How did they go from being security to now being physical, to having a physical police presence inside the school building?
And we see what the consequences of that has been. I mean, to both boys and girls. It's not just a boy issue.
Yeah.
So it's good. I'm glad you're here. We can ask you this question. We can pose this question to you.
Hopefully, I have the answer.
I know you do.
But I just also want to point out that Rizal said what is true, but also if you're a contractor and you go for a bid, a federal contract bid, that too impacts.
That too comes up,
You won't be able to get. I mean, you're not an employee; you're a contractor. But they will not allow you to get that contract and they will tell you that that's the reason.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Tracy Ann. So, if you've just tuned in late, we're here with Tracy Ann Nelson, Executive Director of Arkansas Education Association. So, I guess to some degree, teachers are happy to have the police there for the security, but do you think that is there any way you can tell us in your opinion, do you think that the teachers are using the police as peacekeepers in classrooms?
Disciplinarians.
Yeah. Because that's also a challenge. That's also an issue.
When teachers and administrators use the police, they use the police as a tool to get children out of classroom that they don't know how to deal with.
But why
so
you
what
don't
I'm
need
saying, what
them
I'm saying is when you
if you got in-school security, why do you need the police?
But that's what they're doing because the police have a better opportunity or more authority to get them actually out of the school than to just get them into in-school suspension or disciplinary. The school security have the ability to make arrests in incidents of felony offenses, right? But in misdemeanor offenses, they have to call the real police. And so when you talk about a potential felony offense in a student, a teacher can call the resource officer, a certified police officer, into the classroom, have that child arrested, and that child is gone now, period. And so a lot of teachers, especially white female teachers, are using the police as a means to get students that they don't know how to deal with because of the cultural differences, to get them out not only of the classroom, but to get them out of the school.
Out of the building,
yeah.
Okay.
This has been a huge issue in education, just in general, and in organizations that have members, because you have that divide about what the whole use of police in schools is for versus, discipline versus, classroom management skills. Because sometimes it's some basic things that educators don't have to be effective with discipline.
But not your organization, but as part of having the teacher's credentials, isn't there some kind of training they go through before they're put into a classroom where they're taught these cultural differences, where they understand that, hey, you know what, if you're in a class full of black kids and they get loud, they're not angry. Sometimes black kids just get loud.
That's not a part of a curriculum.
Well, how are teachers who have not dealt with blacks before or interacted with them on a social level, can understand that when a black kid gets loud, he's not being disrespectful
They
or
don't.
being angry. That's just
No, that's one of the problems, right?
Remember-
Even for me, right? Like my thing is, I can get love, but it's not an assault. It's not. I'm
Right.
not trying to offend
It's not
you.
terroristic
It's
threatening.
my emotional capacity of expression.
So
right?
what you just said, getting loud, could be misconstrued as terroristic threatening.
Don't I get
That's,
loud
that's
hair?
disorderly
You know,
conduct.
well,
Yeah.
think about it.
Do I get loud hair? Do you
Yeah,
think I'm a terrorist?
I don't think you're a terrorist. No.
No.
But
You okay with me getting
but
loud?
remember the book. I keep referencing that book, and it's amazing how it keeps coming up
Yeah.
today. The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys,
Yeah.
by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu.
And there's
One of the
another one.
things that he talks about in that book, there are two of them, parts 1 and 2.
Okay.
But one of the things that he talks about, by the way, that book came out in 1984. He talks about the white teacher who has never experienced a black child or a black person except for on TV. And then that teacher comes into the inner city and begins to try to teach those children.
But
Now-
why is there no class that these teachers sit to
well,
understand the
but
cultural
again,
differences?
it goes back to what you say. There's no value for them to learn those cultural sensitivities. Now,
for
now
that
the
they
irony
punish-
is,
so for that they punish black
right.
boys.
So the
black kids,
irony.
right?
Well, remember he started talking about the prison pipeline in 1984. Remember we had him on the show, and remember the question
That's
I
right,
asked
yeah.
him. I said, Dr. Kunjufu, I said, does it frustrate you now that people are worried about the prison pipeline from school that you talked about decades ago? And he basically said, yeah, it does. They weren't paying attention.
Still aren't.
They're still not paying attention.
Yeah.
But my point in bringing that up is that is what we've been experiencing. Is look, I had a culture class in the 7th grade with a lady by the name of Miss Utto. She was white. She had never dealt with black kids before. Okay, never.
How was it?
It was terrible. I ended up getting suspended
Well-
out of a class. They put me in another class, which was an AP class, and I excelled. The point being is that this happens all the time. And this is where we need more than just PTA, and we need people to go into these schools and be able to address these issues because they're not addressing them.
I can say this is one of the things that when I was a desegregation monitor as part of the policy for those schools that were still under that umbrella, is that they had to provide diversity training, cultural diversity training for those schools that were still being under federal oversight. Part of the problem is when, for example, Charles Hobson, the late Charles Hobson, was superintendent, black superintendent of PCSSE, is that he entered a contract with this guy that was considered to be controversial, black guy that taught cultural diversity. And I actually attended one of his presentations to teachers. And in the area where I was sitting, you could hear white teachers complaining out loud, calling that man racist because of how he presented cultural diversity. And so it was a pushback from educators that couldn't understand, which was the case in point. You don't understand, so we need
Right.
somebody like this to help you to
help you
understand.
comprehend
It
it.
was pushed back from educators, and a lot of them said they wouldn't even attend those presentations, even if they were required to anymore. And I sat in the room during the presentation and heard them make their comments as he was presenting his cultural diversity. And so even when you try to institute a cultural diversity policy, a lot of educators, first of all, that don't think there is a problem, are not going to accept the training because they don't believe it's a problem. And secondly, they think the person that's presenting it, if they're not white, right?
Right.
Ironic as it is,
It's not right
if
if
they're
they're
not
not white.
right. And so that's just part of the problem in teaching or providing cultural diversity training to educators.
Well, that's how supremacy works, right? Devalue
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Tracy,
By the way, before we go on, I need to do something. I should have done it yesterday, and I'm gonna do it today, and we'll jump back in this. I need to take a moment to send out my prayers to a very dear friend of mine,
Tony Dunnick,
Tony Dunnick and the Dunnick family. If you have not heard, Tony Dunnick's wife and 2 of his daughters was tragically killed over the holiday weekend in a traffic accident. And look, I grew up on 24th and Sheila. The Dunnicks grew up on 22nd and Schiller. My first Little League baseball team was St. Francis House with Byron Dunnick, Olin Dunnick, and Fred Dunnick, and Tony coaching. I mean, I can go on and on. His mother's Judy Dunnick. It was the best friend of my mom. This really hurt me to my core when I heard about this. And anytime there's a tragedy, but for someone like Tony, who is over the RBI program here in Little Rock, who has done a lot of great things over at the Boys Club as well. I mean, this guy loves kids. He loves children. He loves Little Rock. And for this to happen to him, it shouldn't happen to anyone, but certainly this tragedy that has been visited upon my friend, someone who I would call my brother, has hurt all of Little Rock. If you grew up in this area and you played sports, you certainly knew the Dunnicks. The iconic, back when I played, the iconic every Saturday morning during football season, you always looked for Nut to Dunnick to win the game, Nut to Dunnick. And that went on for years. And from what I understand, this family, the Dunnick family, is the winningest family in Little Rock Central history, with the Nutt family right behind them. So I've said a lot. I'm sorry to interrupt the conversation, but I meant to say that yesterday, and I'm going to say it today, and I'm going to say it for the rest of the week, that our prayers and our love are with you, Big T. If you need anything whatsoever, you know you can call me. I'm going to go by and issue my condolences. And man, I couldn't imagine. So I just wanted to take that time out to talk about that for a moment. Okay, I'm sorry.
That was,
You know,
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was. You know, I kept seeing people sending out prayers, and then I decided to reach out, and sure enough, that's what had occurred. So it was a sad day for my friend who has been on the show multiple times, and again, more than just me, but the things that he's been doing here in Little Rock for young people that we are all trying to save is amazing to me. I could go back and tell you stories about Tony. And, you know, I was a catcher in Little League, and I was a catcher over at Lamar Porter Field. Went back over and started playing in the hood. And Tony said, "Man, you can catch the ball. You just need to start acting like it." Mm-hmm. And I went on to become a very good catcher at the time. So anyway, so we were talking about schools, and certainly we were talking about the report that has come out recently as it relates to the quote-unquote violence. My whole point in bringing up that point, that report, is the fact is, to me, those things that were addressed is not considered violence to me. Okay? Right. Disorderly conduct, what is it? I mean, let's say, for instance, if I'm drunk in public, I could get arrested for disorderly conduct.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I'm being violent.
Right. Well, you know, let's go back to when we FOI'd the suspensions for the first 2 weeks of school. I think that was in 2018. This is last year. We FOI'd the suspensions, and it was like 300 some suspensions the first 2 weeks of school. And to me, I wish they would do a better job of tracking the race of the teacher and how many teachers are suspending kids if you're suspending, because I'm a firm believer kids really can be good judges of character. I mean, if you have a teacher who's rude and disrespectful, kids can give that, you know. And you got a kid who growing up in if you got a kid who's growing up in my neighborhood, and he's in class with a bunch of people who live in his neighborhood, and you got a teacher in there who's you know, trying to bully him to some degree, this kid has to fight back, because if he doesn't, he can't allow her to push him around, because now when he goes home, he's going to deal with this in his neighborhood every day. And I think those are the things that teachers need to understand, that you can't, you know, you have to, there's a certain level, there's a certain way you deal with kids who come from certain neighborhoods just because of what they go home to. You can't, you know, you can't sit there and tell a kid to shut up and you think he's just going to shut up because you said it, because now you've created a confrontational environment, and this kid, he has to come back and be, you know, I shouldn't say.
You have to stand up.
But he's got to stand up for himself, because if he doesn't, now he's got people picking on him on the way home because, you know, oh, you let Miss So-and-so bully you, right? And he's got to deal with that on the way home. So I think there's little things like that. I mean, and that's suspending kids for talking. chewing
Yeah.
gum. One kid I saw on the list. One kid got suspended for breaking a pencil.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm just
So
like,
they don't make kids stand at the board and write, "I will not chew gum in school 1,000 times."
It doesn't seem like they're doing
Man,
it
I
anymore.
went through a whole lot of
My
notebook
son
paper back in the
almost
day.
got suspended for wanting to use the restroom.
I don't think anybody will ever suspend your kid, Tracy.
Not even.
Another teacher will
Yeah,
suspend.
Appreciate
Tracy.
y'all letting me hang around for a few minutes, man. I know y'all just only let me hang around
You leaving?
to increase
You
the ratings
leaving?
of the Black Folks Radio Show.
We
But
appreciate
yeah,
that.
I've got a meeting over at ACLU with the director, and so I'm going.
Ask him, do they fight for any black folks over there?
Nope, they
I'm
don't.
going to ask her that question.
Black folks and
I'm gonna
fathers.
say Dave said that because
Please.
I know the work that they do.
Yeah.
Well,
They do good
well,
work.
well,
Stop.
bring them on the show.
Actually, the
Ask him
director
why
is
had-
gon- Actually, the director is going to be on the Power of Justice
Oh, good.
broadcast this month.
Well-
Every Tuesday and Thursday, 11 a.m.
Well, when she wants to
12,
be on a real
right
show,
here at Joy Net
let them know.
Radio,
Okay.
right here in the studio.
Okay.
And also, if
I'm
you're
gonna kill
looking
your
for
mic
a
here in
church
just a
home
moment.
on
No.
first Sunday
No,
and
we're
third
not.
Sunday at 10 a.m., 311 Fordyce Street in the city of Keogh, Arkansas. First Sunday, third Sunday, 10 a.m. service.
And bring your damn wallet. Don't come
Home
without
by
your wallet.
lunchtime. Bring
no,
Robert-
they don't take up. They don't take up offerings in this church.
It's an admission fee. You got to pay to get in.
Oh, you do?
It's a $5 cover.
You got covered.
heathens.
$5 cover. Communion is.
Oh man, thank
communion-
goodness he's
There
gone.
is a church in Atlanta that you have to do tax returns to become a member.
Jeez.
Really?
Yes.
Is that Kanye's church?
That must be. That must be. Maybe
Kamala
it's.
Harris, on the way out, Kamala Harris just dropped out of the presidential
Yeah.
race.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Good for
man,
her.
I'm disappointed.
Good for her.
Robert's happy.
I don't know why Tracy keeps beating me up. So yesterday, Dave,
He's a
Tracy was
hate-
trying to beat me up about.
He hates Kamala.
I did not.
Really?
So she, I guess she tuned into the show late,
Must be a
and
black
she
thing.
said that I was only talking about Kamala. We
It's a
read.
woman
We read
thing.
what? We read
It's a
four.
woman thing.
No, we read all
You don't
of
like
we,
women with power.
Oh,
You don't
God.
like women with power?
Yeah.
I love women with power. I find that to be very sexy.
I do too. I love a powerful woman.
I love
Don't,
power.
don't bring your
Lord,
sexism to
Lord,
the station.
Lord over me, honey.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm
Tracy, what's up,
serious.
Tracy?
You can be my queen any day.
Take it easy.
Woo, y'all don't know, man. These black men been carrying these burdens for a while. Y'all can
He does
have
not
them.
like Kamala Harris. He has never
I'm-
liked
well-
No,
Kamala
I don't like Kamala Harris.
I'm never-
I don't
I'm
like.
never-
I
And
don't
he
like.
made that very clear.
I'm never-
Let me be clear. I need to be clear. I don't like anybody who's a prosecutor. She was a prosecutor.
And,
You don't like our former mayor?
and
Do I
locking
like him?
and locking
He's
up
a
black
former
women.
Yeah.
prosecutor.
Again, I say it. Let me clarify.
No.
I didn't like. I like the man. I like the man. I don't like the politician. Let me be clear about that. But I did hire him as a lawyer,
All right, there you go.
just to be safe.
By the way, Ms. Trace, do you have any other information we need to bring to the forefront today? Since Robert and Brazil was trying to take up all your time.
I know you have heard me talk about adequacy for ever and ever.
Ever and ever.
Adequacy is the method by which the state legislature decides how they're going to fund public education in the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
So we've not had a study of what is required for kids to be successful since 2003. That's a pretty long time, and a pretty long time that, so much has changed since then. So there was a whole discussion by the committees, Senate and House Education Committees about, doing a contract for a company to do that assessment. Like, what does it take? And man, it has been a political hot potato.
How
Why?
so?
Why?
Well, because there are companies that do this as their bread and butter living and who do it all around the country
I think I know the answer. To
and
this
have
before.
nothing to do with the outcome. And then there are those who have an agenda behind their outcome. And so there was a company who was formed the day before.
Wait. Can I get 20? Did you just say there was
day
a
before.
company that was formed
The
to
day
do
before.
the what is it? The
Assessment.
research, the assessment for adequacy. They were formed the day before what?
The legislature was doing the hearing.
And they got consideration?
They got
They got
consideration.
Did they get consideration? They got the contract.
They didn't get a contract.
Why would you even give them
Because we
consideration?
work.
Why would you even give them consideration?
Well, and also like how
Oh, Lord.
there's no competency measure in that, right?
Which state representative was she married to? I'm curious.
Or
Was she
he.
married- Or he, yeah. Were they married to a senator or a state rep?
Well, there's also a whole thing about the Walton Family Foundation.
Oh, so the Walton family created that for us. They are so wonderful. They do so many great things for black folk, don't they? Let's just love Walton.
But anyway, so there was a vote, it died, then there was another vote, it went to ALC, which is the board of the legislature that decides about money,
Right.
and it was voted down at ALC.
ALC. I've been saying that wrong. I've been saying ACQ. I'm saying that wrong. ALC.
On what grounds was it voted down? You recall?
I don't remember. What,
So will it,
I
I'm
don't, they don't
assuming
have
it's
to
going to
ever
come
give
back up.
grounds, it's a vote.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
will we ever get the adequacy? Will we ever get
Well,
it?
you know, I got notice again for another meeting, so we'll see.
Okay, so again, ACLU adequacy is not being what's the term? Little Rock and Arkansas is not getting the right amount of money for its students.
No, we don't know that. We don't even know because there's not
Well,
been an assessment.
well,
But,
let's
but
go
wait
back.
a minute,
Hold on,
it
let's go
hasn't
back.
been
No.
funded according to what you all have been saying.
Yeah, they haven't
to
been-
True.
Well, it hasn't been funded 100% over the last few years.
Exactly.
So that tells you right there that there's a lawsuit, ACLU.
Well, they don't want to do that though. That's
Why?
Because it's black folks. ACLU
Well,
don't file
but
lawsuits for
again,
black
so
folks.
again, what the hell is ACLU worth then?
No, that's rural schools have issues too.
Okay.
That's not just.
It's everybody. But so, hold on. Let's. I want to clarify this. So I remember when you came in and you first started talking to us about this. You made mention that every year, ALC, right? ALC makes a recommendation of what they should increase the education budget by 5%, by 3%, by 2%.
No, that would be the Bureau of Legislative Research, which is BLR.
BLR. Okay, I'm gonna finally get this right. I apologize, Tracy Ann. So every year BLR makes a recommendation. BLR says, hey, to give adequate.
BLR says, in order for school districts to buy a gallon of milk at the cost that it is now compared to last year, you need to increase it by 2%.
Right.
If not, they'll only have $1.85 and the milk costs $2.20.
Right. So usually what happens is the legislative body decides, well, we're not going to do the 2%.
Right.
We're going to give them a 0.5% increase. And so how do the schools then come up with the rest?
Well, they find ways, right? So they can go to their local tax districts for an increase in the millage, right?
What?
They can do that.
So that's like a last minute thing, right? So
they can go to, they do cuts in their budget.
so they have to make budget cuts.
They make
and
budget
usually
cuts.
when they make budget cuts, they can't cut staff. They can't.
Yeah,
can
they
they,
do.
can they cut? They can cut staff.
Well, we'll see what Little Rock has done. They've cut staff by changing people's title. Like somebody who was a director will be a coordinator.
And so they pay them less money.
And give them more
There you
work.
go. More money, less money, more work. Yeah.
So why have we not had anyone to make an issue about the adequacy funding? Why has that not been a bigger issue?
We've always made an issue of
Well,
it.
no. I mean,
And
other,
administrators make an issue of it. But we also have to be really careful about that fight, right? Based on who you're fighting right now.
because
Right.
so explain that.
You got to
then.
pick your fights because then there's a consequence to fights, right? Like
Right.
teachers are having a consequence in Little Rock right now,
Right.
right?
No, that-
For their fight.
For their fight.
That makes me think, a surrogate would be great about now.
A what?
A surrogate.
A
you know,
surrogate. I got you.
A proxy army. Whereas that, although,
Like parents.
yeah.
Too bad Little
Whereas
Rock didn't
that-
have any.
Whereas that you said you have to pick your fight, but then you tell,
Parents are the taxpayers.
then you go to parents and say, hey, they're not really funding your students the way they should be.
You know, I think
Y'all ought to fight for that.
That would be great. I think what would be really great if that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, if that, you know, if the residents of Little Rock are willing to take a 5 mil increase, which would probably produce roughly about $20.
Why should they?
Well,
they have no school board.
No,
I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to do that.
Neither am I.
Not willing to do
And
that.
how dare you fix your mouth to say
You
that?
do not get 1% from
You've been hanging out with the Waltons.
One second, I apologize for.
Good night, John boy.
I apologize for that. No, my thought process there was
Fix it.
Well, yes, but not
Hurry.
I'm not saying give it to him right now, but at some point, because of all the shortfalls, because of some of the issues we're having from within our district, it would maybe a 5 mil increase would be about $20, a little less than $20.
Yeah, when you give us our school board back, and where it's locally elected, that'll be something we could think about.
No, I mean, no. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not disagreeing with you guys about the.
Well, don't even fix your mouth. Your mouth.
Okay.
To even say that until we get back local control.
You and Tracy rough.
Holla.
I'm just saying.
Y'all rough, man.
No,
I'm
but
just
that's
saying.
like unacceptable. And
Okay.
the fact that we are sitting in this space of no representation while we are taxed is completely un-American and unacceptable. And frankly, I wish I could say I am not paying my school taxes this year because I have no school board.
Yeah, I wish we could.
Can
do
I send that into the tax revenue?
I did, but the only thing they do is say okay, and then they say this is going to be your penalty.
You can pay me
tried
now,
already.
or you can pay me later.
When I renew my tax,
Pay me now or pay me more later.
When I renewed my tax, I said, hey, I'm only going to send y'all. It's going to be minus like $38, and it was like, oh, that's no problem. We'll just add it to you, and we'll just get it next year.
I wish
You
they
just
would.
double up, so
Yeah.
you'll owe us.
With interest.
You'll just pay us $100 next month. I was like, yeah, okay, let me go ahead and give you this 38. Then. No need stretching it out, But I mean, seriously, it's really crazy what we're looking at right
You
now.
know that's a piece of legislation. That's all that is.
Yeah,
A piece of legislation, but it won't get passed. That
it'll
says
never make it through.
if the
you're,
state takes over a school district,
they don't have to pay their taxes.
then the property owners are not required.
The property owners are exempt from paying taxes. I like that, Tracy Ann. I know you can get that through. If anybody can, Tracy Ann can get that through. Tracy Ann get somebody to introduce
Well,
that.
you do have a portion of our population who don't believe in taxes, so they'd be all for
Yeah,
it.
I'm
Right?
one of them.
David.
Everything we do is
Amen, lights.
everything we do is tax. I mean, there's no way we can get away from tax. Every time you buy some gas, you gotta. I mean, I really feel bad for gas companies. I mean, they make no money off of gas. They tax the hell out of gas. So gas is just a service people provide. They don't really make any money from it.
Yeah, they make some money. They wouldn't be in the business.
Well, if you look at the numbers, they don't make very much money.
As far as that, but the other options that the refining and all those other things they
Well,
make.
I'm talking about the end
They-
user. I'm talking about when you get down to the actual gas station. They don't make any
I
They
don't
money.
make
care.
it off of your.
They make it off of those
Yeah, they make it off of Cheetos.
those $2.50 Snicker bars.
That's it. That's all they make it off of.
$2.50. Damn! Can I just smell a peanut?
Cigarettes.
Yeah, they make it off.
Cheetos.
Well, they don't even make as much off of cigarettes anymore because of the tax they put on cigarettes. So it's kind of tough, man. I mean,
Oh.
yeah, it's tough as us capitalists out here, man. Y'all need to fight for these. Y'all need to fight against these taxes. Y'all really need to do that, man.
That's crazy what you're saying right now.
Why?
Fight against taxes.
Of course I say that. I mean that. I'm a capitalist. I'm
Don't
not
you
a
have
advocate.
water coming into your house?
don't
Don't
give
you
a-
have electricity coming
I
into your
don't-
house?
Yeah, Mr.
Don't you drive
Capitalist.
on the road? That's
Yeah, Mr.
all
Capitalist.
I
tax
don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr.
you
Capitalist.
That's right on. I want less taxes. And if you give me less taxes, they give me more money that I can create jobs.
You clearly have
That's
been reading.
Yep. The trickle down economics
Yeah.
is a
He's
failed
been reading
failed
the Ronald
philosophy.
Reagan handbook.
Sorry, that doesn't work. It's been proven.
Y'all love
No,
Ronald Reagan.
yeah.
He's been reading Ronald
Yeah,
Reagan
okay.
handbook.
All right, Miss Tracy Ann, what else you have for us
No,
today?
nothing, I'm-
Is that
Tracy
it?
said she's out. She
Okay.
said bye.
Yeah, I need to run. I have a 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Tracy,
all
why
right.
do you do us like that?
That's all
What
right.
do you mean? I am here.
Oh, by the way, I jerked a turkey for
Was it
for
good?
Thanksgiving. Yes.
How did you cook it though?
I smoked it.
You smoked it?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, smoked it for almost 11 hours. And first what I did was I put it in a vat of what is called brine. and I used my seasoning, and then I poured the jerk seasoning that I made as well. into
Did you
the
bring
wine.
some for us to have?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could you do that
You
off
did
air,
that.
Were you
sir?
saying something? Did I do that to the mic? My bad, Dave. I didn't mean to do that to Mike, Dave. Go ahead.
But anyway, I had like 20 people. My son was in town for the holidays with my daughter-in-law and stuff. So so it went fast. And what we had left over, he took back to Nashville. He's back in Hawaii now, but he'll be back next month. So that's why I was looking at that tie right there. That's his colors for his
Congrats. That was
for his
good.
reception.
That was a good Thanksgiving, David.
So I'm gonna buy this tie from Ghana, and this is a bad tie right here. You know. So anyway, but so that's what I did for Thanksgiving. So I'm getting ready to start selling a jerk seasoning.
Nice.
So I tried it out on everybody just
And
to
it
see,
worked?
and they loved it. So
So they're all American, right?
yeah. There
So
you go.
not really authentic then.
There you go. So Robert, don't hate. You know.
Hey, I won't be here next week.
Okay.
I'll be in another part of the country.
Well, if you have a moment and you want to call in, we'll be glad to have you.
Yeah, always, Tracy. You know, we always love having you come in.
So we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah,
of course, and
we
doing-
are
do
getting
a
some
great job.
update.
Or if you want to, you can send your girl Susanna. We ain't had her nastiness over here in a while.
What?
Yeah, she like coming over. She always like making fun of me. She don't make
Yeah.
fun of Dave.
I
Why
like
she make fun of
Susanna.
me?
Yes, send
Oh,
her.
That's why he likes her.
Yeah, send her. I like Susanna.
Jesus.
All right.
Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me.
Stop.
Is that
What?
a song?
Stop
for real?
it.
Hey, you know what? I got to see the original pilot for the Beverly Hillbillies. And
How
did you
about-
know that they were originally from the Ozarks?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I
Where?
thought they were
Oklahoma?
from No, the Ozarks in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
They specifically said they were from
What's
the Ozarks
Beverly
of Arkansas.
Hillbillies? Is it that oil
It's-
thing?
No, it's with Granny and Jed.
That's
where
the
they-
oil thing, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
where they-
Americans TV.
you know,
I don't know it.
It's one of my favorites, by the way. But anyway, we got to take a top of the hour break. We'll be back in a moment. We got to see Tracy Ann out. Appreciate her joining us. When we come
Thanks
back,
for
we're going to
having
get
me.
into this banking thing.
Yeah.
And I also want to get into this. We'll quickly talk about this Oklahoma cop at Starbucks.
Oh, yeah. This line, dude.
You know, I don't know why I thought about Robert when I read that story.
He hates cops.
I don't hate cops.
But he loves Starbucks.
Yes, he does.
Back in a moment.
Hey. You get my email?
Business owner. Can I talk to you for a moment? How many people have come up to you and said, hey, I didn't know you had a business? Yeah, that can happen when you don't advertise. I have a solution for you. Advertise on joinetradio.com and let the world know that you're in business. I know what you're thinking. Advertising is so expensive. I've got a great package for you that will cut your expense and increase your bottom line. It's only $125 for startup and new businesses. Call me, David W. Coleman, at 615-554.
Man, this is a nice tie.
And I'll put together a package specifically for your business. Now is the time to tell the world, hey,
is
I'm
nice.
in business.
Is it bow tie?
I'll spend your money
Yes.
on quality
It's already
goods
tied or you got
in my
tied?
store.
It's already
Let us help
tied.
you at
It's coming from Ghana.
joinetradio.com. Here's the number. Call me, 615
$23, that's it?
I'm gonna order it.
We are here
I'm gonna
to
order this
assist
one too.
you
This- I
in
like this
building
one too.
your brand.
Hi, I'm attorney Theodore Thompson from Thompson Law Firm.
I
And
like
want to
that
help
one.
with your legal matter.
I'm gonna order
Whether
both
it's
of
criminal
them.
defense, bankruptcy,
I like that one.
personal injury, or family law, I want to help.
What else you got down there?
I can be
And what
reached
website
by
you on?
This is the name of the website is Yabarama Clothing.
You need an
Yeah,
attorney.
send me that.
Primary
Okay.
objective is to provide you with the best legal representation. Our office address is 415 North McKinley, Suite 710.
Now see, those are those are woven. Those aren't the print kente cloth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're handmade.
Depot is your back-to-school headquarters. All college students, fraternities, and sororities.
I can't get in it today for some reason. It's disabled the account. It says account suspended for some reason.
Sofa, love seat, chair, and ottoman for only $5.99. Quantities are limited.
I don't know what's going on. And I can't call Mike right now, so I have to call him once we get off the air.
Full or queen size for only $298, or an Ashley signature 4-piece
How's it going with the house?
$499, or
I'm gonna start looking into it more. You said you're gonna get that dude.
And savings are going on at Butler Furniture Depot. You're back to
Yeah, I'm gonna start looking into it because right now nothing's happening with it. So I'll get the paperwork filed today or this week. In fact, I'm meeting with her tomorrow just to make sure that the paperwork and everything is correct.
It's Mitchell Funeral Home. Understanding that a funeral is a celebration of life. The
And then we'll go from there.
Funeral Home takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional service they offer.
Because I was also talking to my son over the weekend about it. Somehow or another we want to get it.
So. Are a few of the services we offer. Mitchell Funeral Home, Arkadelphia, 870-246-2611. Mitchell Funeral Home. Quality you can appreciate, service you can depend on.
You got it. He's Orthodox answer to your aggravation. Joy Network.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of the show. Just quickly, some updates. As you heard, Kamala Harris has bowed out of the presidential race. Good for her. She wasn't going to win anyway, and she wasn't going to get my vote.
Hey, but two things though, because we got two things we're supposed to do today. One, we're going to go through the candidates for 34. Do you want to do that today?
Yes, let's do that today.
You want to do it today?
Yeah, we can do that this hour, I guess.
You got enough time? Or you want to do it tomorrow?
Oh no, let's do it tomorrow, so we can do it at the beginning of the show.
All right, cool.
So we have some time to do that. What's the other thing?
Another thing is do the bank thing.
Yeah, we're gonna do the bank thing here in just a moment.
Because we couldn't do all three. We couldn't do all three.
Right, so we can definitely do the bank thing this morning. Just quickly, I want to talk a little bit before we get into because we talked a lot about the CRA, right?
Yes.
Yesterday, and we went and Robert did some good research, and we're going to bring that up to you here in just a moment. But the other thing that I want to quickly talk about is the police chief, the police in Oklahoma, who ended up getting some of the people fired because he claimed that they had labeled his cup with the word pig
Did
on
he
it.
show the cup?
Okay. Yeah, there's a picture of the cup, okay, that I saw. Now, let me see if it's on this article. So, yeah, there is a picture of the cup. Now, if you all are not familiar with this story, so, yeah, there's the cup right there, okay? And it clearly says pig, okay? So if you're not familiar with this story, it happened in Oklahoma a couple of days ago. And people decided to start doing some research. Now, I'm not a Starbucks user. I don't drink, or I rarely go to Starbucks because I'm not paying $12.95 for 2 ounces of coffee. I'm just not doing it.
It's
All
not.
right.
It's not $12 a day. It's $5.72.
Well,
thank you very much.
Well, I can go to Kroger's and buy some. I can buy some of them little cups. I can get 24 cups for $5.99. So and put it in my Keurig, and it brews just as good.
Okay, Dave. Okay, hater. Hate on.
Okay. So no, I'm not taking my money to Starbucks.
Hater,
but
on.
Be that as it may, a lot of you sheeple do. Although their lemon cake, I do like their lemon cake, but it's too damn expensive too. But anyway, that's another story. Okay, but now there are reports that he may have lied. And by the way, the Oklahoma police chief, he was a police chief. His name was John O'Mara. Now there are reports that he may have lied, and even his own daughter busted him out. Okay?
Really?
Carolyn Orr, reporter for the National Observer, wrote on Twitter, wait. So people started pointing out that it looked like the cop may have lied about the name pig being printed on the Starbucks order. And now suddenly, after going to the press with the story, the cops are done talking about it because they claim that they got more important things to do. So wait a minute. It was important for them to make a media circus about this.
Yeah, but it ain't important.
But it ain't important now that
'Cause
you've
you
been
lied.
busted out
'Cause
with
you
this
lied.
lie. Okay? So here's the deal, and I won't read this whole story, but I am going to read what his daughter had to say. Okay? The bottom line is this. If you go into Starbucks and order some coffee, they write your name on the cup. Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah.
They write your name on the cup
If you go inside.
if you go inside. Okay?
If you don't, they don't put anything on the cup.
But if you
Order.
pre-order your coffee, then you have a name or username attached to that pre-order.
Right.
So when it prints out the receipt, the tag on your cup, it prints out your username. Now, let me be clear. You go into Starbucks and order coffee, they write it on there. You order it online or through the app, it prints a name on there, which you put in. You get this, right? Mm-hmm. So, what was the difference in the Starbucks cup ordered by the cop and a Starbucks ordered by a regular patron? This cop apparently had an account. And in his account, the name Pig was in his account. Y'all get that, right? So here was a police officer trying to make hay about the fact that his account apparently has Pig on it. And he's trying to make Starbucks look bad. Could it be that he's trying to get back at Starbucks for what they for Starbucks coming out against discrimination about a year or so ago when the coffee incident happened to the two black men?
Right.
Could this be
That could be it.
what he's doing?
That could be it. That could be it big time.
Okay. By the way, his daughter comes out and says, by the way, the cop says reportedly he doesn't have a Starbucks account.
Yeah, okay.
All right. By the way, his daughter says, this is my father, and I'd like to say that he is absolutely a pig. And I'd like to thank the brave men and women from Starbucks for their service.
Ooh, that was shade.
That's his daughter.
That was shade.
Okay? She also called him a racist, writing, for the record, my father has zero business being a police officer. Hello? He was blatantly racist. He was blatantly, proudly racist when I was a kid. Said things I would never repeat. He treats women like dogs, including his own daughter. Oink, oink. Hello? Calling Officer Mara. Calling Officer O'Mara. Could you report to the office, please?
You are a gangster, man.
This is why, stop, and I agree with Rozelle, stop teaching your children that police are the greatest.
Yep.
Because they're not.
They're not.
And they do not deserve hero status, period.
Ever.
Sorry. You can get mad all you want. I don't care.
And at some point, we're gonna have them on. We're gonna have the president of FOP on our show at some point.
Yeah.
At some point, we're gonna have him on. It's gonna be a really good show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an old Negro spiritual that Richard Pryor used to sing back in the day. It was called "We Will See." Y'all want to sing with me? You want to sing a break? We will see. We will see. We will see.
Will you stop
Yeah.
You
By the way, other national breaking news: Trump just lost his appeal to stop Deutsche Bank from handing over his financial records to Congress. You ever been in a ship that was being eaten by rats before they bailed?
Stop.
And it's just popping little holes.
Stop it, man. Stop it. You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
By the way, Russ said the head of the FOP is a documented liar.
Oh, Russ.
I don't believe they're coming.
Russ is under their skin.
He should be. Good for them. He should be.
So that means he's doing his job.
Exactly.
I mean,
if they're upset,
he's keeping them.
Look,
Keeping these guys honest.
And by the way, will y'all please stop parking on 13th Street? I'm just saying.
Not gonna happen.
I came through there the other day, and it was like a damn convention. And y'all out there high-fiving and uddy, and people couldn't pass. And then when I looked at you like, what the hell y'all doing? You look at me like I had committed a crime. That's a street. Stop parking on that street. Anyway, I digress. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your report. You know, we talked a lot yesterday about obligations as it relates to institutions,
Right.
and
Financial institutions.
you know, and whether or not they are considered good partners. Mm-hmm. And the question that came up from me yesterday is, how do we determine whether or not that banks are being good partners, considering the fact of the recent report that came out in the Washington Post, where banks and real estate agents and companies are still practicing redlining, more so than you know. So we got to talking about the CRA, which was a Community Reinvestment Act that was passed in 1977. And what it basically says is there should be a percentage based on your overall holdings that you reinvest into minority communities.
Yeah, low
income which is minority communities. So we got to wondering yesterday, what were the percentages, and what does that mean, so to speak?
Okay.
And Robert knows big wigs. Man, after the show, let me tell y'all what Robert did.
Man, will you stop?
Robert got on the phone. He said, "This." As a matter of fact, he didn't even say this is Robert. I just heard the lady in the background say, "Yes, sir, Mr. Webb."
Will you stop?
And he spat out what he needed. And lo and behold, I got an email last night. In fact, I was so proud of Robert. I kind of sat up in my chair. I was on the toilet, but I sat up. And here we are today. We got some information. So, Robert, if you don't mind, tell us what you have.
Well, let me break it down first because it's kind of interesting how they do this. So the federal government breaks this thing down in three pieces. That has a lending test, and the lending test says the bank exhibits an excellent record regarding its lending activity. That's the lending test. So I only got three. The two I sent you, and then I got one hard copy from First National Bank, and I got an email from who is it? Arvest and First Security.
Well, that's what I'm looking at is Arvest right now.
Okay, so right now I'm looking at the First Security one. So they have three levels that they grade on. Lending, there's a lending test, investment test, and a service test, right? And so
this damn thing is 889 pages.
Yeah, because it goes through and it details everything they've done. That's why you should read through it. You learn a lot of good stuff about it. So on the lending test, this is the one from First Security. It says for their lending test, it says the bank exhibited an excellent record regarding its lending activity. The institution originated a substantial majority of its loans inside its assessment area, low to moderate income communities.
Is that in Little Rock, or is that just across the board?
More than likely, this is across the board for First Security.
Okay.
Right? The bank established an adequate record regarding its borrower profile loan distribution. The institution achieved an adequate record regarding its geographical loan distribution. The institute made use of innovative or flexible lending practices. So First Security is not a bad place to go if you do a loan. Seems like they have some flexible financing. The bank proved
not necessary
a leader regarding its community development lending. It proved a leader, it says. Investment test. The bank generated a significant level of qualified investments.
When was the last time driving around Little Rock that you saw a sign that was being financed by First Security Bank?
Man, I haven't seen one because most people only go to companies that are First Security. In my opinion, wouldn't really be a commercial bank that I would go to. I would probably go to somewhere like First National or.
But wouldn't they be? What about housing?
Yeah, but usually you don't. You probably see some signs up for housing if you were in Alexander or maybe Benton or Bryant, Conway. You probably won't see it in Little Rock. You with me? Yeah, you won't see it in Little Rock.
Man, that minority population is big down there, Brian.
Stop it.
You may proceed, sir.
No, thank you, sir. So, the next one, come on, man. The next one says the bank's investment reflect a good responsiveness to community development needs, and the institute made occasional use of innovative or complex investments. And service is the third measure. The bank exhibited an adequate record regarding its retail banking services. The institution provided an adequate level of community development service. Now, this
That's
is
a
First
bunch of
Security.
gobbledygook.
This is First Security, and they have for their lending test. They have you have four performance levels. Well, you have 5 performance levels. You have outstanding, high satisfactory, low satisfactory, needs to improve, and substantially non-compliant. And for the lending test, they were high satisfactory. Investment, high satisfactory. But for their service tests, they were low satisfactory. Not good, right?
So that means you going in there trying to cash a check.
Yeah. They weren't very good to minorities when you went in there to try to cash a check. Now, I'm going to
Well,
RMS.
okay. So let me stop on that point for just a moment.
Okay.
So if you're not very good to minorities who are going in to just do basic banking services, I find it hard to believe that you're good to minorities in those other 2 categories that you brought up. You get that, right? That seems a bit illogical to me.
Well,
you understand what I'm saying?
But you know what? I can actually get a loan from you, but not bank with you. I mean, that's highly likely. I can have a loan with you and not bank with you.
That's you're missing my point here.
Okay, help me understand your point.
Okay. Services has to do with customer service.
Well, let's see. Let's make sure. Let's make sure that's the definition. Because it could be.
You understand? That's daily banking stuff. Okay.
Let's look at First National.
So ultimately, if I decide that I want to get a loan from a bank, especially if I'm already banking at that bank, the first bank I'm gonna go to is the bank that I'm banking at, right?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you got low customer service points, but you got high community investment points. That doesn't make sense. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you had high customer service, that means that I could understand you having high community investment involvement. Right. But if you got low customer service, that's basically saying that you don't want to be bothered. That's what I view that as.
No, I agree.
So I can't understand how you can have low service points and high investment points. Because if you have low service points, that means that you're not dealing with people.
That makes sense, right? That makes sense.
You get that, right?
Let me look at it.
That's what I'm extrapolating out of that. So I don't understand how that makes sense. I'm just throwing that out for my education. Because we know that these banks are redlining. We know that I've got black people going to banks all the time who can't get loans. That's why you're finding there are more and more black people now are putting together investment companies that can give loans where you don't have to go to banks.
I don't think that's what we think it is. I don't think that applies.
Okay, I'm just wondering because that doesn't make
applies
sense.
To servicing. I think that applies to servicing loans or servicing in other ways, not physically walking into the branch. But I'm gonna
Okay.
check. I'll know
Okay.
for sure
So,
tomorrow.
okay, even if it applies to servicing loans, having poor customer service or poor service period does not bode well for your other offerings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay? Because how you serve people will dictate whether or not those people want to do further business with you, specifically getting a loan. Now, the only thing that could trump that would be that your loan interest rates, yada, 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 your points are lower than your competitor, which we know that's not the truth because we know all of them about the same because they collude. They'll never tell you that, but they do.
Right.
Okay? So we know that's not the case. So that doesn't really, that, again, even if it's servicing loans, typically if I got the whole point in them giving you a small business loan is that number one, they want to make money off of it.
Right.
And then number two, they want to make sure you pay it back. So when you need another loan,
Right.
you're going to go back to
You're gonna
them.
go back to them, right?
So that means that you're going to have to give me good service on that first
On that
loan.
first loan. Right. Yeah, I agree.
You understand what I'm
But
saying?
I think that's more about servicing the loan than actually going into the
Okay,
bank. And
I was just curious.
now
I didn't mean to
the
put you
one
on the
that
spot,
no, it's cool. It's cool.
you know.
The CRA for First National Bank, they have a satisfactory rating, and this is what's crazy, right? Nobody has the same. There's not one universal form that everybody follows.
Therein lies the problem.
Everybody has their own way of giving you the report, and so the way First National Bank does it, they give you an overall CRA rating, and it says their institution CRA rating is satisfactory. The lending test rated satisfactory. The community development test rated outstanding. So, and this is what I thought was interesting when I read through this thing. I want to read y'all something. So,
Is there someone that we can get in the banking industry that could give us some information on that?
yeah, I'll get somebody to give us some info.
Because it's important for us to understand what those things
Understand
mean.
what we're reading, right? But it's something I read in here, and I wanted to read to y'all because I thought it was really interesting.
Performance evaluation 8.
Let me find it. What's going on, man?
I don't know. So see this one I'm looking at from Harvest Bank.
Yeah.
So let me tell you. See, this is what people do to you when they don't want you to know.
Now I want you to know stuff, right?
They give you a document that's 898 pages.
Yeah. Well, that's what I asked for. I asked for the report. That's the whole report.
Okay. Again, they give you a document that's 898 pages. Okay.
Right.
This could have been encapsulated.
No, man, it
But-
would be right if they did that.
They're not interested in doing that. They want you to wade through and not find what you're looking for.
So
Okay.
yeah. So this is the thing, man. So I'm reading this to y'all because if you are looking to get
So
along.
let me give you an example. So I'm on page 15 of this Arvest Bank,
Okay.
and you know what it's showing me?
What's that?
Where their ATMs are located.
Yeah.
What the hell does that have to do with CRA?
Well, yeah, it has everything to do with CRA. Because I mean, if you don't have,
I don't need a
supposedly-
listing of where
supposedly-
your ATMs are.
Well, yeah, you do
in this document.
because supposedly they're looking at if you are providing service to minority, are you providing access to minority communities. So by looking at that list, that says, yeah, we have one on University, which supposedly makes sense. Like they're providing one to us. When in actuality,
Is there one on Wright Avenue in Battery?
no, there's not.
Okay. Is there one on Martin Luther King?
No, there's not.
Okay. By the way, is there even one near the Capitol?
No.
Okay.
I guess
Is,
the
is,
one on Broadway
is
is
there
close to
one
the
in the
Capitol.
South End?
No. There's one on Capitol and Broadway.
So typically, when I need to use an ATM,
You got to drive down.
I've got to drive downtown or out west to use an ATM. In
That's
fact, from my mom's house, the nearest ATM is about 4 miles.
Yeah. Well, this is what I found interesting, though. So everybody knows where Benton and Washington counties are, right? Mm-hmm. We know what those are. Okay. So it says the bank's performance in lending to low and moderate income borrowers in the AA, their assessment area, is poor but adequate. When considering performance context, the bank's strategic focus is commercial lending. However, the bank offers traditional home mortgages that do not involve subsidized lending, low down payment, or other flexible terms. The bank's mortgage lending competitors are largely regional or nationwide banks and non-bank mortgage lenders that can offer a broader range of mortgage products. Furthermore, low-income and some moderate-income borrowers have difficulty purchasing houses without subsidies, lending considerably. The median price of a home in the assessment area is $162,395. Taxes and insurance also add to the cost of owning a home. The poverty level is high at 12.2% for the assessment area. The median family income for the assessment area is $60,032. Low income is considered less than 50% of median income or less than $30,016, or moderate income is 50% less than 80% of the median income, which would be or $30,016 to less than $40,026. So you want to know what's interesting about that to me?
What's interesting about that to you, Robert?
So in Little Rock, in certain neighborhoods, your median income is not even half of $30,000. And so the median income in Little Rock, I think, is what, 42, isn't 43, something like that.
Yeah.
42 and some change. So 50% of 42 and some change is $21,000, right? So in my census tract, the median income in my census tract is $13,000. We ain't even at 50% of the median income. We ain't even at 50%.
So y'all ain't getting no community investment.
We don't get community investment.
That's my point.
Exactly.
That's my point.
But I mean, it also helps you to understand that. I mean, this is why it's important. These are the types of things that people can do. That we have conversations about. These are things you can do if you're talking about you want to help your community. All that other stuff, you ain't got no control over that.
You hear that, Ryan Davis? George Springer?
Yeah.
Lee Williams?
Lee Miller. And Taylor. H-O-T Taylor.
And H-O-T Taylor?
Yeah.
Substance.
H-O Taylor, whatever.
Substance. Kamala Harris dropped out because she had no substance.
Stop it, man. See, Tracy ain't going to be texting you talking trash.
So I'm still going through this 889-page document.
Yeah. But
So let me tell you where I am. I'm on page, let's see here. I'm on page 30 right
you got
now.
both of them? You got.
I just have one of them open right now.
Oh, but you do have the one from.
I'll check. I only saw the one.
So let me tell you what.
Let me finish this.
Okay.
So right now, so in this document, they have a copy of letters that people have sent to them, and then they come back explaining how they fixed it. I don't give a damn about that. See, again,
but that's their report,
this is bull.
No, that's their report.
I don't care. This is bull. This is nothing more than trying to hide data.
No.
Who cares about Sister Sally Ann from the convent?
But
Just because she couldn't cash her check because she didn't know how to spell Ann.
That's what we asked for. We asked them for the report, and that's what they gave us.
Okay.
Now I have to admit, First National Bank. And First National Bank is just now getting their footprint in Little Rock. So if you need a home
Here's Mr. Donnie Rogers.
or a small loan,
He's the president of Arvest.
yeah, he wrote a letter back then.
Dear Mr. President.
But yeah, if you need a home loan, you might want to give First Security a call because they are not lending to minorities. But if you read that report correctly, they're not lending to minorities. So you might want to give them a loan. They're looking to maybe even a small business loan. So you should give them a call. First National Bank. It's down there where one bank was. They bought out one bank. So you might want to go down there and see if you can get a business loan. I bet they bend over backwards to help you out.
Where is one bank?
One bank used to be right there on the corner where Bank of America used to be right across the street from Bank of America. On the west side of Center Street.
Oh, okay.
Center and Capitol, on the corner of Center and Capitol.
Okay.
Yeah, so I still got a couple of banks to hit. So we got a ton of banks in Little Rock. I didn't realize how many we had.
Assessment area, but I'm still trying to get to some the data.
Really?
Risk.
Well, theirs was they had a. Let me go back and
Typically, when you do reports, you do the assessment at the beginning of the report.
Nah.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it. Okay, that's your summary. Okay, you do that at the beginning of the report so you can go through and evaluate it, and then you point to bullet points throughout the document.
Yeah,
But apparently they don't do it this way. I wonder why. Is it that they don't want you to really
Are you
know?
on page 78 yet?
Who knows? I'm on a where the counties are now. I'm on 52. I'm just scrolling right now because they got pictures.
When you get to 78, you'll see the. I think it's on page 78. You'll see their assessment. And they had an assessment.
How about an index? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's one at the front.
No, it isn't.
It wasn't one at the front.
It was just. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It didn't give you page numbers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go to 78. I think I'm almost
Okay.
there.
Piece of crap.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't. Bankers and police.
Because when you get to 68, you'll see a table of contents.
I'm already on 75 now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm at 78 now.
71. Go back to 71.
Okay,
I'm
see.
sorry, 71. Okay, so check them out. They have.
All right.
So Arvest, the Walton Bank, they have the performance levels are outstanding, high satisfactory, low satisfactory, needs to improve, and substantial noncompliance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Arvest and Linden tests, they had high satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
Investment tests, high satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
And in service tests, they had an outstanding.
You believe that?
That's what the Fed
I
said.
didn't ask you that. I said, do you believe
That's what the Fed said. I can only go by what the Fed said.
I am not asking about the feds. I'm asking Robert Webb. And unless you're an undercover agent, you are not a Fed.
Well,
so do you believe that?
I believe it's possible for them to
I
have. Believe it's possible.
Why are you being political about
because
this?
if you look at
Where's the closest Arvest bank to the closest black neighborhood?
University.
Where on University?
University and what is that? 18th.
University and 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
Right across the street.
Oh, well, no, it's actually 19th.
19th. University. Right
It's across the street from the
City.
Catfish,
Yep.
whatever that place is. Okay.
Yep, there was one on University in Asheville, but they moved.
They moved, huh?
You got a Bank of America on University.
I didn't ask you about Bank of
Okay, I
America.
apologize.
Where's the other Arvest bank closest to the black neighborhood?
Our best bank closest to the black
Any
neighborhood.
going south? No.
There's one in Southwest.
There's one in southwest.
There's one in Southwest.
Any going east?
East? No. There's the regions going east. That's
We ain't talking about regions. We talking about Arvest.
So the one on Broadway would cover your east. The one on Broadway, the main branch on Broadway would cover east. I'm just saying, Dave. Don't get mad at me. I'm just saying. I don't build banks. Why are you looking at me like that? I don't have anything to do with banks.
Why are you trying to make excuses
I'm not
for
making
the white
excuses.
power structure?
I'm not making excuses, man. I'm a capitalist, man. I'm not going to be talking bad about my people. The bank's lending levels reflect good responsiveness
No,
to the credit
doesn't.
needs of its assessment
No,
area.
it doesn't.
A substantial majority of loans are made in the bank's assessment areas. The geographical distribution of loans reflects good penetration throughout the assessment.
So what I would like to know, what loans? Are you talking about home loans or are you talking about business
Well,
loans?
when I read through the report, they said they make a significant amount of home loans to minorities. Make a significant amount of home loans to minorities.
You believe that?
I do. Because everybody, so that's how everybody tries to make their CRA.
Man, you're so damn gullible.
No, seriously, that's how everybody tries to make
Where
their
are they
CRA.
making those home loans to those significant amounts of money?
Well, see, this is the thing, though, right?
Are they making them out in Chenal?
See, this is the thing. So Little Rock or Pulaski County could be their target, their assessment area, right? So long as somebody buys a house in Pulaski County, whether it's Little Rock, North Little Rock, or Maumelle, even Sherwood or Jacksonville, that falls into their assessment.
But see,
area.
but I'm glad you brought that up because here's where I have a problem with this report. We know that though this report is not based just solely on Little Rock, Arkansas proper. It's based nationally, right? I want to
with
see
some banks, with some like the report we're gonna get from Regions, because
Mm-hmm.
Regions has to print out their report and mail it to you on disk.
Okay, so I want to know what are you doing in specific areas of this state? What are you doing in Little Rock? I don't want your composite number, okay?
Right.
I don't want that. I want your specific numbers, okay? I want to know what you're doing in Little Rock, all right? Because, see, I can be doing great in Sebastian County, and those numbers helps weigh the numbers in Little Rock. You see what I'm saying? So the overall numbers are better, could be better, but specifically in Little Rock, Pine Bluff, other areas, they might be offering one loan a year. You see what I'm saying? Whereas in Sebastian County, I don't know this, I'm just throwing in the county out there,
Right.
it might be 20 loans a year.
Yeah.
So they use that as a overall number to average in the means. You understand what I'm saying?
I get that. Yeah.
So I want to be able to know. So it's kind of like the police when you say, well, crime is down. Where?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. They don't. But unfortunately,
This is a general report.
Yeah, they don't break it down by state. They don't break it down individually.
But that's
They just-
stupid.
Well, but
Because see,
but
what?
the thing is,
Well, let me give you another example before you go on. So I'm gonna give you a city that I know that's booming.
Okay.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Okay. Nashville is booming better than any other city in Tennessee right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure that banks are lending money left and right in Nashville.
Yeah.
It's exploded. Houses, buildings, businesses, you name it.
right,
But they may not be doing the same in Memphis.
right,
But they can take the score from Nashville, average it into Memphis and Chattanooga and Knoxville, and say, hey, we met standard.
yeah,
When in fact, you haven't met crap in Memphis.
right.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's
And
what I'm
They
saying.
could very well be doing that. Had a great conversation this morning because I was talking to a developer in Nashville, and he told me some stuff that just kind of blew my mind. I don't know if you know it or not, but 100 people a day move to Nashville.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. The duplex that I lived in was $750 a month. It is now $1,750 a month.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
It's just that bad.
He said there are currently 36 cranes up in Nashville. Right
Yes,
now.
it is.
So that's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So
I
that
think we
just
got
shows you how it's booming.
I think we got one crane up that I've seen recently.
We do.
We got one crane up, yeah. Right across the street. That's the only crane I've seen.
Oh, you talking about that wasn't really a crane. No wonder I missed it.
But we had one.
I was a Tonka toy.
Yeah, we got one crane rolling.
But again, I mean, I hear these numbers, and it goes back to what we originally got into this as far as your elected officials. If they're not asking these questions, if they're not querying the banks to say, well, I read that report, you know what, that summary sounds pretty good, but what you doing in Little Rock?
Yeah, but I think it's more of a collective though, right? So if I'm a state representative, not only am I talking about the CRA report, but I'm also talking about the minority contracts and how we can have banks meet that criteria by giving short-term loans to these guys to get started to get minority contracts, right?
Jackie says there's a crane up at Markham and Ash by the state hospital.
Oh yeah. Well, I really wouldn't count that one, Jackie. Only reason is because that's state construction. I'm talking about independent construction across the street.
Okay.
Yeah, that's state-funded construction, more than likely. I'm talking about independent construction. You got a developer who's building some great building, something like that. But like I said, you get a business and they make a short-term loan, and they give them a short-term loan and say, okay, listen, we're gonna give you seed money till you get your loan, till you get your contract, then you pay us back. I mean, there's several ways you can help them meet their CRA.
So here's my point. about their assessment areas. This is what I was looking for. The bank has assets totaling $18.7 billion as of June 30th, 2018, and operates 298 offices across 16 assessment areas throughout Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. So this tells me nothing about what you're doing in Arkansas.
Yeah,
That
gives you the overall.
This gives you the overall. So I want numbers to say, okay, what are you doing in Arkansas? What is that assessment in Arkansas proper? Because again, it's easy for me to take 16 different areas and average them in and get the means of that. You understand what I'm saying? That's it. So I'm looking at, let's say, let's take, they've got Texarkana, Arkansas on here. Are you doing the same amount of investment in Texarkana, Arkansas as you're doing in Lawton, Oklahoma? I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's a good point, yeah. But like
So this is why I say this is gobbledygook. This is some form that they've come up with, and because our elected leaders are not really paying attention, or they bought them off to the point where they're making them not paying attention, this is not serving any purpose whatsoever.
Well, I think the issue again is when you're talking about loans to small businesses, they don't actually give you a breakdown or percentage, and they don't actually let you know who they're lending to or what they're lending to. When we read the synopsis for First National Bank, I mean, they're talking about low income being $60,000. So how does that?
Another point.
Yeah, how does that? I mean, I guess in some places, I guess in Southwest Arkansas, because Washington County and Benton counties are Southwest Arkansas, Fayetteville, Fort Smith, Bentonville, Rogers, and I'm missing one other. But that's pretty much Benton County, the Ozarks and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, to some degree, I understand your point completely. But you know what? What we need to do is we need to get somebody in here who can dig down in this thing and really give us the nuts and bolts and tell. But also, there are some other banks. The one who I always know is out of compliance is Iberia Bank. They're often out of compliance when it comes to minority lending, and I think that's because of they have a ton of banks in Louisiana, and so I think they're always out of compliance for that reason, for whatever reason, because of Louisiana and how Louisiana works. But I'm definitely going to get their CRA today, and hopefully we'll have that tomorrow. And don't forget, we'll have Lee Miller here Thursday.
Yeah, good.
We'll get to talk to him.
Now that's the young cat, right?
That's the young guy.
The guy you don't like.
That's the guy you like. I don't have a thing for either of them.
I don't either. So why you say I like him?
You like it because, man, you gave him the thumbs up.
I just said that because he's a young guy.
That endorsed him.
Oh, no, I didn't endorse him. I'm saying if I had my druthers, the way I've heard them other folks, I'd rather vote for the young guy.
Why?
That's all I
Why
said.
would you rather vote
Because
for the
others, they old heads, they ain't got nothing to say.
Okay. What did he have to say? So hold on.
I've been around for a while, and I wanna be your representative.
Stop it.
That's basically all I got out of that thing Monday night.
So Monday, that's it. That was it Monday night.
Right. I mean, come on.
Did anybody talk about any issues? How they gonna fix anything? How they gonna improve anything? Anything? Okay. All right.
You remember the text that I sent you?
Yeah, it was pretty depressing.
It was. If it was depressing in text, just imagine. I was about to cut my wrist with a plastic fork. Golly.
You are ignorant. Cut your wrist with a plastic fork. You are sick.
I'm just saying, man.
You are sick.
Dig my eyeballs out with a spoon.
You are sick.
But no, I'm just saying, man, we just need people that's going to get in there and know the business, man. I mean, we shouldn't, look, this CRA thing is campaign fodder.
No, because I think to know that you have to have some kind of banking experience. I don't think that just everybody.
No, you don't. All you need to say, you ought to be listening, if you're listening to Black Focus right now, which I'm pretty sure some of your campaign managers are, you ought to be on Google right now looking for what is the Community Reinvestment Act. Okay? And then the next thing that ought to pop up in your head is, how is that working in my district?
Yeah.
And then if it's not working, now you got to have a meeting with the banks.
Well, that's a.
And you know what? You don't even have to have a meeting. You can just start saying, when you get out on the campaign trail, that we're concerned about economic development and making sure that our partners are that our corporate partners are doing right by black communities. Okay? That's all you got to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the Community Reinvestment Act to make sure that we have good corporate partners. You know what the banks are going to do?
Right.
Ring, 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 ring. Hey, Mr. Candidate for the 34th District, can we have a meeting? You know why? Because they don't want that publicity. Because I guarantee you, based on the questions that we've had just by looking at these reports, I guarantee you they don't want people really scrutinizing these reports. Hello?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I know.
I don't know if they want us to. I don't know if they want us to scrutinize them or not. But I think what I
if they
would like
wanted
to see,
you to scrutinize them, they wouldn't have gave you a report that was 889 damn pages.
Like I said, I'm gonna go through the report because I want to see if they break down their lending in each state and if they break it down by city. I doubt it, but I still want to see. But
if they were proud of their community reinvestment, wouldn't they be proud and do that? Oh, in this state, look, you put them little stupid letters in here. I don't give a damn about someone couldn't use your ATM machine.
Yeah.
Okay, you put those in there. So wouldn't it? I mean, that's a feather in your cap.
No, I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
so if I'm compliant with the act, then don't I put a breakdown on what state that I'm compliant in?
No, because when the federal government took a look at it, they judge you overall. They didn't judge you by state.
So they
by
have
county, by city.
Right. So they really have no goodwill towards the CRA. Because if I'm doing something good, I'm the guy with the video camera feeding the homeless. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hey, look at me! I just gave that homeless man a happy meal.
You let everybody know.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Because that's PR for banks. Okay?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because maybe you don't. I don't know this to be the fact. I don't know this to be the case, but maybe you don't want everybody to know that you got great numbers, because then all of a sudden you get people coming in there, you start turning them down, and then you have to look at those turndowns. Maybe those turndowns go against their numbers, right? So if you got too many rejections, then it offsets your. If you make 17 loans, but you reject 120 people, that ain't good, right?
Yeah, I can see that as potentially a problem.
So
we don't know that to be true.
Yeah, we don't know that to be true, but I wouldn't want to be advertising if that's the case, because you gotta log your rejections just like you log the ones you fund, right? I'm just saying, I don't know that to be the case though. But my point is, when you start talking about minority communities, I don't understand why there is not a greater push to identify areas to loan in, and not just saying low to minority borrowers, but you identify areas to loan in. Like you loan in neighborhoods south of 630. You draw circles around neighborhoods south of 630. Low income communities. You draw lines around low income communities and say, hey, we want to make 200 loans in low income communities, be it a home mortgage, a refinance, a business loan, a car loan, a personal loan. We just want to make loans in this area. You know, that to me makes more sense when you start talking about the CRA, right?
I would agree. So you would tend to believe that these banks would have that type of officer, that type of department that will go out and basically seek those loans.
Yeah.
You know, that say, hey, look, we are a community partner. Here's what we have for your community. Banks don't do that.
Right.
They don't care to do that.
They don't care to do that. And again, banks' job is not to find you. Your job is to find them. And they hope you find them. And that's why they have, like, you at First Security before Frank Scott left, he was the person who did that minority. He was their CRA guy.
Really?
Yeah. Virgil Miller is the CRA guy at Arvest.
Really?
Yeah, Marty North, I think, is still the CRA person at Bank of
Marty
Bank
doesn't
of
sound black.
Ozark. Marty is black. It's a female. She is black.
Oh, okay, Marty.
It's Marty. It's not Marty North now.
Martina.
It's Marty Hamilton, but
Okay.
she's black.
She's
yeah.
black. So only black
they-
people have those positions?
Mostly, they hire black folks for those positions.
So I think Tina, what was Tina,
Oh yeah, Tina.
where is she?
She's at Arvest.
Okay.
And part of her job is bringing in more minorities to buy homes. So they actually created a position that she actually goes out and recruits people to come in and do loans. That's her job, I think, just to go out and recruit people to come in and get a loan from them. You with me? So they're doing their due diligence.
Loans where?
At Arvest.
I'm talking about where? Like out in Chenal?
They don't care where you get the loan. Like I said, because it's not focused on an area. It's just focused on the skin color or the income. Just black folk, man. Just gotta be black. That's all they want. Just gotta be colored. They don't be so frustrated. It all works out.
I will admit that the sea of getting more information has depressed me.
Wow.
Because every time I try to give them some credit, they reel me back in.
Well, I think it's for one. I think it's a really good conversation to have with candidates who are going to be going, who are running for office. It's a really good conversation to have. But the thing for me, unfortunately, is that if they don't have any banking experience, this could be kind of stifling because there's a lot of information. There's a lot of things you need to know.
You don't need banking experience to get a understanding, okay? To know how things work. Let me ask you a question. Are you a plumber?
No.
But you sure as hell know that when you turn on that switch, that water's supposed to come on, right?
I do know that, yeah.
That's my point.
But, yeah, Dave, but it's not, you try to make things so simplistic because you're brilliant. Because you're brilliant, and I get that.
That's not simplistic.
But Dave, it's not that simplistic. There are a lot of layers and stuff to banking anyway.
There's a lot of layers to plumbing.
Yeah,
a lot of pipes.
Plum is not that complicated.
That's why, okay,
Plum is not
the
that
next time your
complicated.
water freezes, let's see how complicated it is.
Well, if my
the
water
next time you
freezes-
flush the toilet
if
when
my
you done
water
did number
freezes-
2
yeah,
and it doesn't flush,
Right.
let's see how complicated
If that
it is.
happens, Dave, that means that I don't know what I'm doing because there's
Or
no
something
way
you
my water
ate.
should freeze. Yeah. Stop. We know it won't be no roll though, right? We know that. For a fact.
See, you going that on me? Okay.
Okay.
But no, I'm just simply saying, man, that they make it overly. Look, the whole thing to keep you from asking questions, they complicate it.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
I don't disagree with that.
So we ought to have liaisons who can go in, and those should be look. Even if that certain representative doesn't have banking experience, he should have some cursory knowledge of things that's going to affect the community by which he or she wants to represent.
You know what? This is what I find to be unfortunate is that most times we get these elected officials, we get people who want to run for office, and to me it's disrespectful that you don't, because if you truly want to help people, then you want to educate yourself on what's out there to help people. That's my thinking, right?
You think Little Rock representatives want to help people?
I like to think they do.
But
you know,
you're killing me, Robert. You're killing me. Because if they did, would Little Rock still be in the same position that it was in 35 years ago?
I don't think that has anything
everything
to do with
with
knowledge. I think that's more about maintaining status quo. And when it comes to that, I think they do a very good job of maintaining status quo. Yes. I mean, you don't want to turn over, and essentially these people are turning over their power. They don't want to do that.
Exactly. They're sellouts. Anyway, I'm just saying, man. I'm gonna stop trying to be upset with y'all in Little Rock.
I don't even know why you get mad.
I'm working to make a better Little Rock a better Little Rock. Okay. Anyway, I'm just saying. All right, we got to get out of here. More depression. Y'all make sure y'all go out and check out the Christian Deacons. By the way, we didn't get a chance to talk about the police chief, Eddie Johnson in Chicago. I meant to talk about that. You heard about him, didn't you?
Yep.
Good old Eddie was out partying with a woman, and then apparently he went to sleep in the car. I hate to say this, but I don't believe that. I think it's more to it than that. But
yeah. Maybe he had somebody in the car with him when he went to sleep.
I just feel like there's more to it than that, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So, but again, we know the Chicago police are notorious for covering up stuff. So, no pun intended. We got to get out of here. All right, Robert. Good stuff as always. Thanks for the information. We'll try to get more info on this.
Yeah, we're gonna get more info
because I need some specifics. But anyway, do you have your quote ready today?
Yeah, why are you trying to do that like you always ready?
I am.
Sure, you ready?
Sure.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly, affects all indirectly. Black folk, wake up! That's Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, y'all, spend money on your own community. If you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Never forget that intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. Therefore, remove yourself as far as possible from ignorance and seek as far as possible to be intelligent. Marcus Garvey. Y'all have a great day.
You got Garvey on this thing. All right, then, player. Boom, boom, boom. Another solid one in the books, bro.
Good show, bro.
You've been listening
Better,
to Black
baby.
Focus, where we discuss our issues.
So we got your boy coming on Thursday, and let me call this other dude while I'm sitting right here. I keep forgetting to call him every time I leave out.
JournetRadio.com.